The Big 12 is exploring selling its naming rights to a sponsor. How are we feeling about the Buc-ee's conference? Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, conference realignment. And today we are talking about the fact that the Big 12 has been exploring selling its naming rights to a title sponsor, something we've never seen done before in college athletics. And we are going to go to the article now to dive into that and react a little bit. But before we do, if you are a fellow Cougar or like any of the teams or just a general fan of Big 12, please go ahead and give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. It is free for you and it really helps us a lot. All right, so now let's take a look at the ESPN article. All right, so here is the Pete Thamel article. It says the Big 12 is exploring selling its naming rights to a title sponsor with potential revenue of hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the deal. The commercial sponsor would potentially take the name Big out of Big 12 and replace it with the sponsor's name. It could end up as one of the largest commercial deals in collegiate athletic history, not including media rights. The conference, which has explored this option for the past 6 months, it's amazing they've kept it quiet that long, has had in-depth discussions, and a decision is expected in the upcoming months. A deal could mean millions of dollars annually for the conference's member schools. Well, Brett Yormark wasn't kidding when he said that the conference was open for business. And I don't know if this is specifically what he was referring to, but I love that he has got the conference out there looking for any way possible to bring in more revenue to keep the conference relevant, to keep it competing with the other conferences, especially in today's changing world of college athletics, that it is more important than ever with NIL, with having to pay players, with all the changes that are coming with realignment and with the SEC and Big 10 really pulling away financially. The Big 12 has to do something to close that so that they can keep those best players that they can get in the conference so that they can stay competitive. So I love all that. I love thinking outside the box. And this is shocking, but I love the creativity with that. Having said that, call me old-fashioned, whatever, but this is going to take me a while to get used to. But I do think I could come around to it if the money's there. Are they able to get enough money to significantly close the gap to really keep the Big 12 competing financially on an even playing field, or at least a closer to even more competitive playing field with the SEC and Big 10? Because when I read this, hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of the deal, well, how long is the deal? And actually, we're going to look at a tweet here that might shed a little more light on all this in just a second. It also says that the deal could mean millions of dollars annually for the conference's members. So that doesn't get me too excited. When you say millions of dollars, then divide that over how many years is the deal, and then over at least 16 schools, which the conference theoretically could grow even more with the way things are going nowadays. That's not really that much. I mean, they didn't even say tens of millions. They're saying millions. So are we getting what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 million a year for each school? And does that really change the landscape that much to essentially sell your soul? And yes, I know that sounds dramatic, but look at the second paragraph. They're talking about taking the name, the Big, out of the name and inputting the name of the corporate sponsor right into it. So it wouldn't be, the Buc-ee's like I teased at the beginning, although I think that sounds more like SEC. When we look at this, I think Love's would be a better option. It's got a bigger footprint. And that way, if the conference does expand, look, Love's will already be in their state, so represents all the member schools. But no, seriously though, and that was obviously tongue-in-cheek referencing the truck stop conference, which the Big 12 was dubbed last year when people were putting the conference down. So anyway, but they're going to be putting their name right into the title and into the name of the conference, and wanting to change that identity. Now, I still think that just like Twitter changed its name to X, we all still call it Twitter. I think everyone will still call it the Big 12, but I wonder if that's why they want to take the big out, I'm sure, and put their name in to really further instill their name into it, because it's so easy just to leave the corporate sponsor off and keep saying Big 12 if they do it the other way. But so that, to me, if you're going to go that far and change the full identity, it's got to be worth a lot of money. So let's take a look at this tweet here from Brett McMurphy, which said the Big 12 in discussions with AllState on naming rights deal worth $30 to $50 million. Name possibilities include Big All-State Conference or All-State 12 Conference, and Big 12 also considering $800 million private equity deal. We'll get to that in a second. That's further down in the article. So when I see a deal worth 30 to 50 million, is that annually, or how many years is that? Because if you're going to change your full name to a corporate sponsor, you'd think that that is going to be a long time deal. You look at arenas; those are usually quite a long time, and they're for those naming rights. So I would think for a conference that you would want some sort of significant amount of time with a big payment attached to that. So 30 to 50, I mean, what is that, a five? That's got to be annually, right? Because that does not sound like very much money. And so when you talk about the biggest deal outside of TV network or TV rights, that does not, that may be the case, but that does not really get me too excited about the name change. So I don't know. We will see. But in terms of these named options, the big All-State Conference or the All-State 12 Conference, I don't know. No matter what, it's still going to be the Big 12 to me. But in terms of corporate sponsors that it could be, that's actually not the worst. It doesn't sound as corporate-y as many options out there. We're already used to All-State being a huge sponsor of college football, so we see it all the time anyway. And in some ways, when you say the All-State, at this point, the Big 12 feels almost like an All-State, going almost coast to coast at this point. So in some ways, it's kind of fitting. I think I could stomach it. But again, it's all about the money. How much money is going to be there? And is it going to be enough to be a difference maker for these schools to help them stay competitive? Now, coming down a ways, talking about that private equity deal, we said the Big 12 has been in discussions with private equity firm for a stake in the league between 15 to 20%. According to this tweet, it's saying $800 million, which is great. And it would be the first known large-scale private equity investment in college sports. Okay, so that could be huge. Private equity has been thrown around all over the place lately. The first time I heard it was in reference to Florida State, but it seems like a lot of people are exploring it because there's just so much money to be had in college athletics these days, and you need more and more to stay competitive and be relevant. So naturally, the Big 12 would explore this avenue. My concern is, what are we giving up? I doubt they're just giving us money and going to sit back and collect checks. I'm sure they're going to be involved with the direction of the conference somehow. And it says here, sources, however, caution that the private equity pieces include some skeptics, especially among presidents. It's interesting that they didn't say there were skeptics about the naming rights, but they are about the private equity. And naturally, among the presidents, because what are they giving up? They're essentially giving up, the schools are a member of this conference. It's part of the identity. And then they're giving up some of the autonomy of these schools over to this private equity firm. I don't know in what ways they would be impacted, but it does feel like that would be scary, uncharted territory for the school presidents. It says, regardless, there is a clear desire to boost revenue in the Big 12 in the near future. Okay, well, that is clear. And so we'll see what wins out. Are they going to try to protect what they can of college athletics, or are they going to chase the dollar? At this point, college athletics is changed. There's no putting that cat back in the bag. So I think at the end of the day, everyone is going to do what's going to be best for them financially and be able to continue to compete. It's just wild that that it's come to this. And again, a lot of the devil's in the details. So we'll see really what's in these deals and what they're giving up, what the exact dollar amount is, and what the impact on these schools is going to be. But if it helps them to stay competitive, this could be a really interesting move and allow the Big 12 to continue to compete. However, something else we got to think about is that in terms of strategy, this is not a competitive advantage for the Big 12, because any of the other conferences could go out there and do the exact same thing. I'm guessing they'll sit by, watch the Big 12, see how it goes, learn from them, decide if it makes sense for them to do it, and then find their own way. Perhaps they can learn from any mistakes the Big 12 makes and then go out and do the same thing. And if the Big 12, and that's the catch with this too, right? If the Big 12 does it and it's not that much revenue, they're not able to close the gap. Okay, well then what's the impact? If they do and they're able to close the gap, then the Big 10, the SEC can go out there, do the exact same thing, and who knows, maybe do it for even more, and then they just open that gap right up, and then the Big 12 is back in the position of playing catch up. So it'll be really interesting to see. Is this just going to be something that continues to spiral as teams continue to sell off more and more in order to continue to bring in more money and compete? And so while this could help the Big 12 close the gap for the short time financially, in the long term, I'm not so convinced that it'll be the ultimate solution. They're going to have to continue to find new and innovative ways to stay competitive. All right, there is a lot to take in with all this. Honestly, I'm still digesting, but I want to know what your thoughts are and what you think about the Big 12 selling its naming rights to a corporate sponsor. What do you think of that? And of course, I want to hear your best corporate sponsor names for the Big 12. Let me know all of those in the comments, and be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time. Go Cougs!